Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Jonah and the Pod. Today we have a very special guest. We have a man that wears his heart on his sleeve.
I really do.
Wherever he goes, he just fits in. Very extroverted. He can get under people's skin. Not mine, but some people's. But I think even those people still love him. So everyone, welcome Simon.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm so excited.
Yeah. So firstly, we'll say just about yourself. Like right now, what do you do? Who you are?
All right. Quick overview about me.
Hobbies.
So you're right. I am extrovert. I actually did the personality test 2 days ago.
Actually?
Yeah, I did. It's ENFP. I used to be ENFJ, so I used to be protagonist, which is like the main character. And I got super chuffed about that because I was like, yes, I'm the main character. But now I'm ENFP, which means I'm, I think, a little bit more like go with the flow as opposed to planny, which is very different for me. I think being a little bit more adventurous recently has made me like a bit more agile.
We'll get to that, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So 95% extrovert. My name is Simon.
95%?
Yep,
Wow.
95%. Okay. I recharge on things like this. And I'm 28 right now. I'm 29 in 2 weeks. I'm dreading getting older.
That's so fun.
I remember when you were born. That's how old I am. And I am currently working in the advertising industry. So I've been in media, I would say, for like 7 or 8 years. And then what else I do? I worship lead at church. I like ministry. I work on the social media stuff as well. I'm not too good at it. Not yet.
Like that's something you're good at. It's just
I haven't tapped into it properly yet. What else? I am a sibling. I have one sister. She's 10 years older than me. So that's been really interesting. So I felt like an only child for a bit of time, to be honest. And then I have a mum and a dad, which we'll talk about too, I'm sure. And I have 4 nephews and nieces. So I've got 2 nephews, 2 nieces.
All right. That's a very good overview, to be fair. People just like, yeah, I work, do this. That's good. Me and Simon have known each other. Well, he already said it, but he's known me since I was born.
Correct.
He was in my brother's grade, my eldest brother's grade. We used to go to the same church together, and then he left.
The dramatic.
He peaced out, and then somehow we ended up at the same church again.
Yeah, we did.
But yeah, so that's how we know each other. It's a weird dynamic because you're always my brother's friend. So it's like I have this with so many people, like with Anthony's friends and Roger's friends. I'm now close to them than my brothers were. It's so weird.
It is strange.
So yeah, Simon has been in my life the whole time, but I still don't really know his full testimony. I know parts and bits. Yeah.
Oh wow. I feel like everyone knows everything about me.
You'll be surprised. So saying that, I think it'll be good if we can get into your testimony. You can go as in depth as you like, or
as basic as we can get. Look, I would say you were right when you said I wear my heart on my sleeve, because I genuinely do, because I just feel like there's not really much time to waste in conversations. I really love people. And so I feel like falling in love with all the people around me is just like getting more deeper and richer. And I think that's what God's intention was. Like when you look at the disciples, I don't think he was like friends with them face value. Like he really unpacked himself. And yeah, I think the disciples as well lived their rawest self. Something that trips me out about Jesus is that he could read people's minds. So like,
it's true. Do you reckon he
100%?
Oh yeah, he does. Like, he does know how like people's situations.
He knew how people were feeling, and he knew that people were going to deny him. It's pretty scary.
Yeah, it is.
So yeah. Anyway, that was a side topic. So my testimony. I will caveat. So there's been kind of 3 milestones in my life. 3 major milestones, which I think you know most of them. Like I would say, you know, all three. Then there's what I would call like soft milestones. So there's like hard milestones and then there's soft milestones.
There's a full timeline to this.
There's a timeline. And I think that one thing that I've been contemplating recently is like, when was I actually like saved? Like when was the conception of my faith? And I feel like for everyone, it's different. And I don't know if you've been like talking to different people about their testimony and you've realized that there's actually a pattern that some people just, they don't have a conception time.
Well, we've had two people on before you. He hasn't seen them, so he doesn't know.
Not yet.
But both of them don't have like a specific time.
Yeah.
It's a weird. I have a specific time that I remember, but most people don't really.
Yeah, and I feel like, to be honest, I think naturally, those are the type of people I would say that God had to take on a journey in order for them to really discover him properly. Yeah, I don't know. I love and respect the people like you. Like if you've just had like a moment where you're just like, I'm turning. Like I've got friends that are just like, I turned and I went the right way. That wasn't me.
It's weird because it's that like there was a time where I know I gave my life to Christ, but it wasn't really my turning point. And that it's very odd.
Yeah, see,
it's a weird one.
That is weird. That is weird.
It's in the first podcast. So again, you haven't listened.
I'm excited.
I haven't recorded it. So.
I'm super excited.
Yeah.
I need a burp. There we go.
Yeah, right.
Let it out. So I'm gonna start where it all began. I grew up obviously in our church, Tingabi. It was pretty much family. Like we had what I would say a village raising us. Like your mum was my mum, really,
it's
and
true, yeah.
my mum was your brother's mum, and like we all just shared families. What people would probably think we lived in a cult, to be honest, because we were so open with each other. But yeah, so I grew up in a Christian family, just the normal cohort where it was like mum, dad, sister. We all went to church together on a Sunday, and it was so good. Like it was just like life, I guess. And I went to a Christian school. I had really been exposed to anything like that was secular, I would say. And I grew up pretty much being fed the Bible at a very young age. And I don't know about you, like, you know all the stories, but it didn't really impact.
Yeah, like I was very like sort of intelligent not intelligent, but like with Bible knowledge.
Yeah.
Because like I read like a children's Bible like 3 times and all that stuff, but didn't really hit until a certain point.
Yeah, and I feel like the same with me. I fed my mind, like we got taught so much stuff, but for me, it never really manifested in anything for me. Like I didn't feel like a spiritual move or anything. Yeah. And even as a child, I would remember being like, what are they experiencing that's so different? Like I just go with the flow. I was like, oh, whatever. Like, I guess I just inherit this. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, so grew up in that environment, and loved life. I think the only thing I struggled with was I didn't feel like from a young age, like I was the rest of the people that were at church, or even just the rest of the people at school. I felt like I was a bit of an odd one out. And I think people would notice that, like mums would notice that at church, or teachers would notice that at school. And so I remember my mum being pulled aside at church and they'd be like, Simon keeps playing with the wrong people. Like he's either playing with everyone that's older than him or he's playing with the girls. And I would be like, she'd tell me and she'd be like, why are you playing with them? And be like full intimidating about it. And I'd be like, I don't know. Like I'm just comfortable with these people. Like what's the problem? I'm confused. And I think as a kid, I was really just challenged. I didn't have the best relationship with my dad. Like my dad and I were close, but it was just like an Arab dad. Like he was there, but a little bit absent, always working.
Their way of love is provide. But
correct.
They don't have like the sort of emotional connection to you.
They didn't have the skill set.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, like for them, when did they connect with
their dad?
Yeah. Like when did they connect with their parents? And also they got married at such young ages. When did they even connect with their friends? Like,
true.
I don't think they'd have candid conversations like this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I struggled with that. The best connection was probably with my sister and my mum. And so naturally I gravitated towards women because it was just like, they were comforting at the time. And so I remember growing up in school, that was my issue. Like up until the point where I got to like year 6, my issue was he keeps hanging around the girls and he keeps hanging around older people. If it's the boys, it would be older boys. It wouldn't be younger. And it was a pattern. And, you know, as a parent, if I was a parent now, I'd be like, I know what's wrong with my child. Like, I know what's going on. Like, I need to spend more time with him and teach him. You know what I mean? But there's nothing wrong with me. I think that's just the natural way that God wanted me to grow up, I guess.
Yeah.
So, I got to a point in about year 7 where I realized my identity was very different. And I started to feel insecure about it. And it hit me a lot. And I remember like challenging God and being like, if you are real, why don't you just make me like the other boys? Like, why aren't I sporty?
Yeah.
Like, you played soccer
Yeah.
and you're good at it. Your brother played soccer. Like, your brother was my best mate growing up as well. Like, from year 4, he kind of came to school with me and I was like the happiest person in the world. I was like, oh my gosh, Roger's here. It's like finally like a saving grace. But even then, like he integrated, and I watched someone I grew up with, and he was like one of my closest friends, become so close to all the boys, and I was still the outcast, and I was like, what the heck? I'm the same person.
Like, you were close to Roger. Roger's my eldest brother, if you don't know.
Yeah.
You were close to Roger, but he was close to the boys, so you were just like
this in between.
Yeah.
Like, and I felt very sorry for him because I feel like he tried to advocate for me, but it just didn't work. Hold on. Anyway, so when it got to about year 7, I was struggling with identity crisis, I reckon. I think I got to a point where I was like, I like girls. They don't like me in that way. They just want to befriend me. And then all the boys, I was an outcast to them. I wasn't really doing much sport, and I hadn't discovered anything that I liked properly. Like, obviously I was telling you, I worship lead and like I sing and like I love music. None of that had come out yet.
Right, okay.
None of that had come up in my life. I felt so vanilla. Like, I felt really gross. Anyway.
Vanilla is nice sometimes.
Vanilla is nice. I actually love vanilla ice cream, and I love vanilla thick shakes. Chocolate thick shakes are too much for me.
Yeah, I agree.
But I think when I got to that stage, it got too convoluted because my parents started having marital issues. I think you remember, like,
I was very young.
You were young, right? I think you would remember though. When you think of me when I was in church, do you think of me at a young, like as a kid without 2 functional parents, or with? When you think back,
to be honest, I just remember your mum.
Yeah, she was the only one that was around. Yeah, I think so. So it was about year 7. At this point, just for context, my sister had discovered her husband, and they were engaged at the time. I think maybe at around year 5-ish. I think they when I was in year 5, they had gotten married, and I'd grown up with them. Like, my sister's 10 years older than me, and he went to school with us. And so Sonia and Michael got married, and she had fled the house, and so obviously I was like alone in this house with my dad and my mum. And then my dad, straight after the wedding, he called for the divorce.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And that was probably the most traumatic moment for me, because I was like, 1, like, where are you going? Why are you leaving me? And 2, how could you do this to mum? Like, it's such a treacherous crime. And from that point onwards, I think like I had lost my marbles. I was like, God just doesn't exist. Like, your parents' love is the first like proper love that you
experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And the relationship they have with you and the relationship they have with each other is where you kind of catch your bearings on what love looks like.
Yeah.
And so when someone tells you that God loves you, the love that you associate with God is the love that people have demonstrated to you. So you're like, what does that look like?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Do you, would you say you were saved at this time?
No.
Okay.
I think I thought I was.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. I inherited my faith, I would say. So I'd be like,
that time,
yeah, I'm saved. And my mum would always just be like, you're a believer. And I'd be like, every time I'm not, I'm a believer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember, do you know what's so funny? Do you remember when you'd go to school and you'd talk about some people, and I don't know if your mum did this. My mum would always be like, they're not a Christian, Simon. They're a Christian by name. And I'd be like, what does that even mean?
that was you. Like, she was like pointing you up.
She was explaining that's people funny. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's me. Anyway. So when they went through the divorce, I instantly spiraled in that, like, I just didn't know what was going on. And I was dealing, to be honest, with a woman who had spent 27 years married. I was in the same household as her, and she was going through a breakup. Like, she was traumatized, and like, I think it took about 4 years for my mum to fully come to terms with the fact that she had just been left.
Yeah. That's tough. How old were you? In year 6, year 5?
Year 7,
Oh,
year 8. Yeah, year 7, year 8. So I was about 14,
that's
13.
Tough. Someone that's going through, like, I'd say identity crisis, and then that happened to them.
Mm-hmm.
You sort of want to be there for your mum, but you don't know how.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, that's tough.
Absolutely. It was really tough. And I loved my mum, and I saw the world. I think you too. Like, your mum is like the one you would defend first.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's just...
No offense, Dad.
Yeah. It's a natural... Your dad is so cool too. And like, you'd still defend your mum.
Yeah.
Your dad and I share the same name. So that's why I like him. More than other dads. So yeah, look, when my mum went through the divorce, I struggled because I had to become her husband, and I had to become the man of the house, and I had to become like the courageous one that wasn't easily emotional.
Yeah.
Because I had to be consistent. And you know what? I say that and it sounds really arrogant, but it's not. Like, it actually was the coping mechanism.
Yeah, I think it would have been a sort of double-edged sword where you were forced into this role.
Yeah.
But it sort of helped as equipped, or as unequipped as you were. You just sort of like had to.
Yeah.
You had to learn.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Straight out. And even then I remember people would be like, oh, you're so strong for doing that, la la la. And I would put on this front like, yeah, you know, God's teaching me. This is happening. I'm developing, la la la. And I acted so mature. I was broken inside. Like, I was falling apart.
Yeah.
And then watching my dad and my dad's relationship with me and my sister kind of change. And he lived down the road when they first got divorced. They got a divorce for a few reasons. Like, when back in the time, I didn't really know what was going on. But I think there was a breakdown in their marriage from a very early time, before I was even born.
All right.
Yeah. And oftentimes with Arab parents, there is. Like, they get together because either it was arranged or it happened very quickly. Within a couple months, they were married. They were from the right villages, and, you know, Bob's your uncle. You're having your first baby after your first honeymoon, like whatever, first trip away. That's pretty much what happened to them. And I don't know the ins and outs and the sins and the discretions and stuff like that, because I just don't want to know. Like, I don't think it's important for me to know, because I don't need to see them in a different light.
Yeah.
And so when they left, I was just like, can you sort this out or can you not? If not, I just need to know. And I think it got to a point where my dad was like, nah, it's not going to be sorted out. And my mum was like, if he doesn't want to sort it out, it's not going to happen.
Right.
And that broke me. And yeah, so that was the first milestone. Did I go to faith after that? No.
Right.
I think like
a stepping stone.
Yeah, it was a stepping stone. You're right. I think your first trauma, I did have like a come to Jesus moment where I was just like, Lord, help me. And we knew how to pray, and we knew who to speak to. And we had people at church that were like open to hearing us. I think our church was at a point where it wasn't that mature yet. Like, we didn't have youth leaders, like proper youth leaders. We had people that would help facilitate games and keep us occupied. But I don't think we had. Do you remember that? Like,
there was a time period where I wasn't at church anymore.
But yeah, you went Guildford.
I was a lot younger than you.
You were a lot younger.
I was 6 years younger than you.
I can't believe it, because you're so like, you're practically the same age as me in my head now.
Like, once you reach a certain stage, it's like, yeah, we're the same age. But yeah, I sort of do remember that stage. It's with Ray and Jamil.
Yeah. They were kind of leaders in Yusuf, who they were all amazing leaders, amazing people.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is a part of the story that I'll get to. I think when you lose your dad in a divorce, it wasn't long after my dad left that he actually fully left. So he ended up getting remarried. And to my demise, he removed himself from our lives completely. And my sister probably got the most affected out of that. And so I didn't have to actually just play the husband. I then had to play the father. And then I also had to play the grandfather when she had children.
So prior to this, was your sister's relationship with your dad okay, or was it?
It was very strong. She's her father's daughter.
Right.
She fell in love with my dad.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, she had 10 extra years with him.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So when I look at my sister, I could cry. When I look at my sister, I just think like I can see like this pain in her eyes.
Still to this day?
Still to this day.
Oh, wow,
and I think if she was listening to this, she'd probably start crying because she knows that it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like your father's your first love, I think, for a lot of women. And rightfully so. I think that's how God desired it. And he let her down. Like he majorly let her down. Yeah. And she met her husband, thankfully. And like God worked in her life miraculously, provided her with a home. Like she has 4 kids, beautiful kids. And I'm not even biased because I'll call out a kid if they're like really bad. But there's only one that's pretty cheeky and we'll give it to him. And then she has a beautiful husband who will always be open to hearing me talk to him about his marriage or
that's cool.
How he's treating Sonia. And I think like any couple, like they're just candid.
That's mad.
It's beautiful. And I think God really like pulled her life into the right place when she felt like it was falling apart. So yeah, like I said, dad left, complete no contact. And that was detrimental, I think, for both of us. Not having a father figure. Even when your parents are divorced, you still want that connection with your parents.
Of course, yeah.
And so, yeah, I think it was then my duty and my role to be like, I need to handle myself.
Yeah, wow.
Figure out my emotions. My identity crisis still existed. It just got locked into me.
Was this, again, like, was this still year 8 time? Or was it
year 9, year 8. Yeah, I would say like I'm nearing towards seniorhood, like going into year 11 and 12. Yeah. Mind you, I was so freaking slow to going through puberty. It was so annoying.
That's fair. Roger was as well. Roger was very short until year 12.
I was the shortest. I was the second shortest in my grade in year 12. Actually, I am now, guys, for context, I'm 5'11". Just want to put it out there. But like, you're like 6'1". Bro, you're tall. I love it. Yeah, I was so short. I was shorter than all the girls.
Really? Wow.
And the boys.
I remember Roger being really short until year 12 as well.
Yeah.
Maybe just something with your grade.
No, I was short until year 12. And then, yeah, that didn't help my identity crisis.
Yeah, fair enough.
I just kept putting it, like, I just kept being like, why God? Like, why hasn't this happened yet? I actually feared that my voice wouldn't crack as well. Because I got to year 12, it was really high pitch. Everyone used to call me Justin Bieber and stuff. But we'll take it. It happened in the end. In uni, it just like randomly, I just shot up and suddenly I was a man. Finally, even though I had stepped into the role quite early. Yeah. So at that point, that was really, I reckon, the time when God was starting to like knock on my door and sort of be like, hey, dude, like, where you at? And I had good youth leaders and we had regular Bible studies that would happen. And like I said, you just grow in knowledge, but the Spirit just doesn't activate. And yeah, so I think my next part would have been the double-edged sword, I'd say. I still went through this identity crisis. I went through puberty. I started to see myself and find out who I was. My character started to become a lot more extroverted. I was always extrovert in school, never really focused. I had the worst HSC results. I was so stupid.
At least you got results. I didn't get results.
I think I got a 30. I can't believe I'm saying this on a podcast out loud. I got a 35 ATAR. Proud of it because I'm still smart. I think I actually got 37. I can't remember. Anyway, insignificant.
Under 40 or under 30?
I think you get an asterisk under 30.
Okay,
yeah. Yeah. I remember Roger telling me, he's like, I got so sad because I was like,
how'd you beat me?
No, yeah, rightfully so, to be honest. I didn't do any work. But yeah, I would say, I'm just going to say, I think I am intelligent. Like
just like
I have an intellect at some point, but like it just didn't work in school because I think I just didn't care.
Yeah.
I also did a bit of like a hissy fit because I was like, give me some attention. Like something's wrong with me and nobody cares.
Hissy fit to who?
To like my parents. And like, I wanted my mum to realize that everything had affected me because I think she just like expected me to be perfect because I'm her perfect son. And I think like, yeah, I was like, no, I need people to realize I'm broken. Like something's wrong with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when I was 19, I think I really knew who I was as like a character. I was like, this is my energy. This is who I am. I love my friends. I love my people. I love hanging out. We had a really good group at church. I think you were still younger, but we had like quite a close-knit group.
Yeah.
I actually ended up becoming really good friends with your sister at this point, Jeanette.
Yeah. I think I remember that time period.
Yeah. And yeah, Roger took the back steps. Sorry, mate. He ended up going through his own kind of journey.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I became really close to Jeanette. I became really close to like a lot of the older people. And then that's when I started to mingle a little bit more with guys. And then I had like some key milestones in terms of friendships. I had really close male friendships that started to happen. But I had this weird way of being friends with people where I was possessive.
Right.
And I was like, you're going to leave me. And like I had in my head, I was just like, they're going to leave. Like, have you ever been, I feel like you were pretty secure. Your friends, you just naturally.
Friendships have been like, I'm sure I'll say in the first podcast, but friendships have been like my biggest issue, I reckon, in life.
Really?
Yeah. I had, this is going to sound mad depressing, but even coming to Graceway, which is the church we go to now, I had like thoughts of like, these people are going to get close to me, get to know me, and just leave. Like
That's so bad.
Yeah. I just think I'm better at hiding it. Maybe. I don't
Potentially. I kick and scream.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, when you say that, it's resonates with me.
Yeah.
But I'm sure I'll talk about it more in the first
I think
podcast.
Friendships are hard because there's expectation, but there shouldn't be. And then there's also, I don't know how to explain it. I have like a whole friendship psychology thing in my head. But yeah, I think learning at a young age, friendships were my like escape and my home. Like that's really dangerous because like for me, home wasn't home. None of my family were home except my sister, but she was my best friend. But I was also her father in my head. Yeah, and I was also her kid's grandfather in my head. So I was like, I need to be a certain level with her. But she knew everything about me. But we lived such separate lives as well. So when I became friends with this one guy, who you know, but I'm not going to mention names, I struggled because I became very possessive of him. And whenever he would be friends with other people, it would hurt me. And whenever he would love other people, it would hurt me. And like whenever he was absent for a period of time, it would hurt me. And I was like, something's wrong. And then I had a youth leader who you also know. I'm actually going to say his name, Akram, amazing guy.
Yeah.
And he still till this day checks in on me and is always praying for me. He shook me. I think he corrected me, but he also shook me because he showed me that like I'm not broken. Like I'm just breaking. Like I'm just going through a process of being like molded. And that's when I experienced God, I reckon, for the first time through that friendship properly.
Yeah, wow.
Because he quoted the Bible in such a practical way. And I was like, wow. Like talking to him felt like talking to Jesus sometimes. And that's where you want to be. Like that's the goal.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Akram
he is a great guy.
He's a great guy. And he was candid about his suffering as well. Which our parents weren't, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think the problem is with our parents is like they have to be the man, but they don't understand that men can actually be vulnerable.
Yes.
Like Jesus was vulnerable many times.
Yeah, exactly. And like I think as well they did it to protect us.
Yeah.
To some degree.
Look, they did what they knew. It's like it's a bit of ignorance from them, but it's like how much can you really blame them, I guess. I mean, yeah it's a weird one because it's like they should probably learn or want to learn how to be a better father.
Yeah.
But it's like they also don't know that. I don't know, it's a weird
They
one.
just go with the flow, I think. I think you're right. Like for us, I think when we become parents, even just us as friends, like we're always learning. You're always asking me what you can do better.
Yeah.
Like you're always praying or asking me what you can pray for or being like candid about your prayers. And I love that because we're working together to try and figure out how to do our best self.
Yeah.
And how God desires us to be our best self. So as a parent, I think that was the biggest learning for us. I think we will be a little bit more candid with our kids.
Yeah, knowing that we messed up and actually being like, hey, we messed up.
Correct. Yeah. I actually heard our pastor Badil, he said, when you make a mistake, like, don't think it's gonna like be a record. Like, just correct it. Just say, hey guys, I've made a mistake.
Yeah.
Even to people that aren't of faith, I've made a mistake. I swore. I don't like that. That's just not my character. You guys can hold me accountable to that because I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Wow, I just died. Yeah.
Which I love.
Yeah, that's cool.
But anyway, yeah, moving into the next kind of milestone, it was Christmas.
Milestone is so funny, by the way.
I love
it's like you've reached a new goal.
Dum, dum, dum. Okay, maybe it's not milestone. I'd say, do we want to call it trauma 1, trauma 2, trauma 3?
No, what's maybe we can still say milestone, but it's just like milestone sounds like a positive thing. Yeah, it is a positive thing, but it's like because it built you up to who you were, but it's like,
yeah, hey, I think every circumstance is positive at some degree.
Yeah.
God makes the most of every single trauma.
We'll stay milestone. It was a bit positive.
Yeah. I'll call it milestone #trauma. So I was heavily involved in church at that point, in terms of ministry and stuff, but I was doing it just cause, like, that's when I kind of discovered my talents and gifts. And I was like, this is good. I'm going to lean into it. This is where I'm going to feel the most strong. And I think I was pushed into that because I think that's the right thing to do for someone who's young and new. Like, pushing them into ministry helps teach them, but also gives them this ability to be as
long as you're not just throwing them and
100%
being by their side.
Like a smaller ministry, I think it helps them learn a little bit more about being above reproach.
Fully agree.
And so I was living a good life.
Yeah.
Just wasn't living in God, but I was living a good life. And then we went to a Christmas carols. The traumatic Tungavi Christmas carols.
Yeah, wow.
And I think this was I was still at Tungavi at this time, I think.
I think you were.
That was the year I think I left.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, so so Christmas 2000 and I want to say I was 19, so I don't even know when that is. But anyway, Christmas was December 16th. My mum and I went to a carol separately, and there was this massive storm the night before. Long story short, the integrity of trees after a storm, especially gum trees, is not great. And a branch broke from like 20 meters above my mum's head and knocked her out. Shattered her skull, like completely annihilated her. And I was on the opposite side of the carols, and there was about 300 people at this event. I can't even remember how many people there were at this event. And everyone is like running towards and swarming towards this like one location. And I was on the opposite side, and someone said, "Simon's your mum." And I was like, "My mum what?" Like, I was so confused. I thought she had stacked it or she had done something. And I'm walking towards like this situation, and I'm like, the crowd just opens up in front of me, and I'm like seeing this person, could not recognize her. And that she had been struck by the tree. Long story short, she was completely like battered. Like, she was meant to be dead. Her skull was fractured. She had maxillofacial fractures. She lost vision in her left eye. She was bleeding, like hemorrhaging from her brain outside of her face. Like, everything was like exposed. Like, you could see everything. Your mum was the first person on the scene. And she was helping me, I don't know, manage the situation. We had no clothes on. Like, I think I'd taken all my clothes off to try and stop the blood. And yeah, pretty gruesome. So I'll save everyone the horror, but it was, I think, the slowest 20 minutes of my life waiting for that ambulance to get to that location. I mean, I remember thinking Jeanette was the one, your sister was the one who took me to the hospital, and she was talking to me, but I think she was trying to figure out like if I'm still alive. Like, I was like dead in the car, and like her voice was going into my head, and then I was like just wearing pants at the time because I think my clothes were
like bloody and
all stuff. Bloody and stuff. And we got to the hospital, and then straight when I got to the hospital, there was just doctors talking at me and sign this waiver, 30% chance of survival. She's going to need this donor, this donor, this donor. And at the time, my sister was pregnant with her second child, and she was due a couple of weeks after that. So I was too scared to tell her that mum's like in hospital and practically dying. And then, it took she was in a coma for a bit to heal. The surgeons worked some miracle in the Lord, and they managed to get her stable. And that whole period of my life was an enigma. Like I had 3 months in hospital in and out between my sister and my mum. My sister ended up going into labor. And I had about a year where my mum was in and out of hospital recovering, and she was in rehab after, and her recovery was really long. She lost sight in her left eye. She already felt like she had been through it, like the ringer. Her life has a lot of suffering, and this was like the pinnacle point. Like she was like, I remember her when she was pulsing, she looked at me and she couldn't recognize, like she was like, I can't, she was speaking in Assyrian, and she was saying things that were like previous memories. Like she was acting 17 in my hands when she was like convulging, like on that floor. And she was saying like, I can't see you, I can't hear you, like everything's like falling apart. And then when we were in the hospital, when she kind of started to come to consciousness again, she would say things like, just end it. Like, enough.
Wow.
Like, if you love me, you would pull this plug, like this life support. And I remember thinking like, that was the first time in my life where I was like, I feel like I should do that for her. Like, I was like, do I make this decision to like help facilitate, like she needs an escape. She's done. Like, this is it. She's suffered enough. And I remember going to the Lord and just being like, why? Like, why are we still suffering? And we were, me and my sister went through it then.
Wow, that would have been so tough. Like, I can't even imagine how.
Yeah. Horrible year. And I was 19. I think it was first year of uni. And I felt like my life was on pause. I don't think a 19-year-old needs to go through that. I'd go home alone and I'd be like, Mum's in hospital. And I'd need to figure out what's next, like what to facilitate. And I had to become her carer for a little bit. I also became a little bit selfish. Like I felt like when someone's sick around you, it's really hard to be the person that caretakes because you have to pretend you don't exist anymore in order to caretake.
Right, yeah. Because your life is pretty much their life.
Correct.
Yeah.
And you feel a bit selfish admitting it out loud, but like you want your life back. Yeah. You want everything to just be back to normal. So yeah, that year was probably one of the most traumatic years. Yes, there was joy in like the birth of my sister's second child, Leo, and there was joy around us. You know, our church came together. They really, really helped us. Like Ting Abbey was so helpful during that time. And there wasn't a mum or a dad in that church that wasn't there for me. And in hindsight, like everyone opened up their doors for me. Everyone, my whole kitchen was full of food. It was a beautiful thing. Like, and it was so nice. Like everyone volunteered to help. It just took a long time, I think, for me to recover and actually get to a point where I actually could look at my mum again because of the trauma of seeing her during the accident. Yeah. She felt like I was absent from her because I couldn't even sit like this with her. I would be too scared to like even see, like even after she had fully healed.
Oh wow. Okay.
It just my mind would literally like rupture into like the moment where we were there. So yeah, I think that point I was at church, things had passed and I started to make really big decisions in life, and I was like, I don't feel like myself. I don't know who I am anymore. And I just feel like I'm a caretaker. Everyone at church, I was really easily malleable. A lot of people at church at the time were encouraging me to do the opposite of come to Christ. And like, these are people that you grow up with, even people from school, like we're all Christians, but like in speech marks Christians. And I just struggled to figure out where God wanted me. And that's when I feel like God triggered me. Like he fully penetrated my heart and he was like, you need me. And you need to admit that you need me, and it's not happening for you. And I had met, at this point, at the end of this year, I had met another really key character in my life who is now my best mate of 8 years. And I was encouraged by a healthy friendship as well. I wasn't possessive. I wasn't like, I was just raw. And he encouraged me a lot, and I think I used to see Christ in him, and like a lot of the people that led him, and he went to a church in Maryland, and I was like, you know what, I think this is the moment I need to decide to to move to where God is calling me, and that's to Him. If I don't see Him currently where I'm at, I need to make a change.
Yeah.
So I moved to Maryland and I left Ting Abbey, which traumatized everyone. I think I was one of the first of our generation to leave the church.
To be honest, it felt like, because now that you're saying you were, what, 20, 19? When did you leave?
Yeah, I left it at like 19, 20
For
years.
some reason, so that was, what, 8 years ago? It feels like so much longer than 8.
I'm 28, turning 29. No, that was almost 10 years.
I feel like I didn't have like an active brain when you left. Like, I feel like, because
you were a little cute kid, man. Like,
I was
you were
like
just
14 at the time or something.
Yeah, I remember all your friends and I remember hanging out with all you guys. We did spend a lot of time together though. Like, we did Manila mission trip together.
I didn't go Manila.
Oh, you did Coonabarra, didn't you?
Yeah, I did Coonabarra.
Damn.
But that's wild. I thought you left so much earlier.
No, I left really late in the piece. Yeah, I was definitely an adult. And when I made the decision to leave, it was the best decision I made. At that point, God catapulted me into, like, I think my journey into finding Him. And I met a lot of key people in my life came into my life after that point. I think
sorry,
my story is just so jarring. Let's go. No, I'm kidding.
No, I think water went down the wrong pipe.
Do you think, like, so I'm going to ask you a question. When you moved churches, like, to Graceway, do you feel like you really had to be your best self, or like you had to fully, like, almost like put yourself on like an outfit? Like, you had to like dress into Jonah, and you had to be like, I'm now Jonah and I need to go into this group of people that are different and show who I am and make friends. And because you inherited all your friends, they were just school. Like, I feel when we grew up, school, church, like
it's a weird one. I was actually having this conversation with some people the other day, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, when I went to Port Macquarie and did Word of Life for a year.
Yeah,
I felt like at Toonie, I wasn't like, it might be a bit long, but it's okay. Port Macquarie, I went there and I sort of felt like I had to be sort of the funny guy and stuff, because there was no, it's gonna sound
animated
bad.
people.
There was no like, the humor was a bit dry. Just sorry.
We'll take it.
So I thought I had to just, like, naturally, I just felt that filled that sort of void when I went there. That was only for a year. That was in 2020. And I came back and I was just like back to myself before that 2020. And I was just like thinking about it. I was like, maybe I was just trying to fill a void. And then I came to Graceway, and there are funny people. There are
so many personalities.
Yeah, so many personalities. So it wasn't me actually filling a void. That was actually who like when I went to Port Macquarie, that was actually who I am. But when I was at Toongabbie, I sort of put this persona on myself where I was just like some boring, like, sort of vanilla guy.
Yeah.
That just constantly served the Lord with, like, maybe no personality, maybe.
Yeah.
Like,
I think you're also very, like, your personality is the type of personality that, like, if someone said, we need help, before they even finish the sentence, you'd be helping.
Yeah, so I think that has stuck with me since. But just like my characteristic, my personality, like, I was always introverted, but ever since probably like maybe 2020, and then last year, my extrovertedness has come out. So I did a personality test last year. I got entertainer. I was like,
wow.
This is wild. Yeah, and I was more extroverted than introverted. I was like, this is wild.
That's different.
This was not me. But it was like 50-50 pretty much. But it's like, this is so weird. I would love to do it again and see, because I feel like the extrovertness has come. Your question of, do you put on yourself? I felt like I was, again, it was probably different to what you were feeling. It was just me being natural. It was weird.
Good.
Because I was afraid to begin with. I've been at this church for my whole life, and then I have to find another church with randoms that I don't know. But it was so, like, I mean, by God's grace, he just, like, he provided me with everything that I was searching for. Some good friends, which, like I said, that was always an issue. like a healthy church that kept growing, a church that I could plug into and hopefully help out, lead
ministry
wise, and also that they can pour into me.
Mm.
But all this while I'm being myself. If that's not what I
Experienced
was
before.
Yeah, it wasn't like I was hiding who I was, but I just probably didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
Really. But yeah, it was wild.
So see, for me, I think this is such a controversial thing to say. I think the church move was the best decision I made because of that kind of experience. I feel like God unlocked a piece of me that was just locked for such a long time, or just not tapped. Like, I was put into an uncomfortable position where I had to introduce myself. And who was I going to be? Was I just going to be the hurt, wallowing, I feel sorry for myself, fatherless, like traumatized kid?
Yeah.
Or was I going to be this dynamic, excited for what God's going to do? Like, I'm ready to serve, like even just friendly and like approachable, walking testimony. And I went into Maryland's with such fresh perspective. And
so can I just clarify real quick? I think I don't know if might not speak for you, but if you agree,
you can speak on behalf of me.
Too many people are like up the top for me personally. Like, I love them to bits. It was just, for me, it was just having a fresh start.
Correct.
Was like something that I needed personally. And the way that Toonie was, it felt like it was time to leave for me. For him, it was time for him to leave, and I think God used that to give us a fresh start. We're not trying to talk.
No, absolutely not.
Like, I'm telling you, we can meet up with Toonie people anytime, and
it feels
be
like home.
Yeah, it's like we never disappeared. Like,
yeah,
we still have that really good relationship with them.
And funnily enough, God's always just like dropped us with each other throughout the whole journey.
Yeah, that's how we're somehow back together.
Which just again talks to God's grace and God's plan, because He wants us to be united. Like, we're going to be united always. You know. So I think, and like I said, they were a family to me, and they raised me basically.
Yeah, I just had to clarify because I felt like we were sort of.
It's just leaving the home. It's like moving out. Getting married.
Sorry, continue. You're talking about Maryland's.
Yeah, so no, I went to Maryland's, got into ministry, knee deep into ministry. And I really did. I started to discover God there. Like, that's where God started to really pull me in line. And I started to understand the concept of living a life as a Christian is more than just saying that you believe. It's living a repentant life. It's serving in a ministry. It's being godly, for He is godly. Like, you know, it's pulling all of those knowledge and actually applying it. And I had my pastor at the time personally mentor me, which taught me a lot. And he was very much enabling me to be fervent in my personal development with Christ. I would say I probably gave my life to Christ during that period of time. So around 21 to around 23-ish, I would say, was the gradual movement. And
that's
late.
Way
late.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I would always say I believed.
Yeah. Okay.
But do you know, like, the repentant part is the part that I think didn't hit me till later.
Okay, that's so interesting.
Yeah,
that's very interesting. All right.
And like, even now, Jonah, I grapple with my faith in that I know I love God. I know I serve God. I know He is my, like, everything. But I think it's healthy to be like, am I truly repenting of this sin? Am I truly letting go of myself? And am I truly putting God first?
It is.
And so, during that Maryland time, you know, our church was growing. It was strong. I felt like on fire. And I would say it was probably the rosiest period of my life. Then comes trauma 3. I was truly happy. I
was like, what's trauma 3?
Trauma 3, it's coming to you. Okay. And
I fully forgot that happened. Wow.
Yeah, I became myself. Like, I fully became myself. I no longer had identity crises. I had some really strong male friendships. Yes, I had a little bit of identity issues and like insecurities. We all do.
Yeah.
And I think I just grappled with that. My friends used to help me with that, you know, unknowingly. I had some really strong friendships, and we were growing. Like, all of us were growing. I really truly became my extroverted self.
Yeah.
And I started to love who I was. Like I started to
That's
love
cool.
who God made me.
Yeah.
And I still do. Like I think that carried on. And I started to understand human psychology a little bit more. And I understood like that people are my favorite thing. Like I love people chemistry. And you know, I went into the advertising industry. I started to really develop those people skills. My industry is all about communication, and creativity and stuff like that. So I really lent into all that. And I think I was living like my best life. I met a few more friends, and I made this one friend who was really close, who I grew up with. And then he introduced me to his sister at the time. And
I don't know. Oh, right.
yeah,
Okay,
fully getting it. And yeah, long story short, fell in love with her. And I was in like a long-term relationship for about 4 years, 3 to 4 years. I want to say 3.5 years. So much so that I proposed. I was going to be married. At this point, I would have been a married man. But yeah, I think during that relationship, an amazing relationship, learned a lot. And I think, just for the record, it was a good relationship. Like, really good relationship. And it came to an end a month before we were meant to be married. Technically would probably not have been able to get married because of COVID, because there was so many restrictions. But yeah, it ended. And that sent me spiraling to some degree. I can't believe he's coming again. This means that I've been talking for like an hour and a half, right?
No, it's been 55 minutes.
Well, I'll take it. Sorry. Yeah, so, was engaged, ended that. And I don't really know what to say beyond that point, because it's just like, I don't know how much detail I can give, but
look,
don't go through too much detail.
Don't
but
expose people.
I would say, just from me personally, the best part of that relationship ending was God's provision after. So when you end a relationship, your identity goes through like major overhaul, because it's just like, I'm not deserving again. Like, we had this whole thing, people leaving us, friendships breaking. My dad left me. So when she left, for the reasons that she left, and I will give it to her, she left because she knew that she wouldn't love me the way that I needed to be loved. And so I have to respect that. Like, I had to respect that decision, and I did. When it ended, I respected that decision and thanked her in the end. And the honorable thing to do was to walk away knowing that God's going to take care of me. But it just didn't feel like that. It felt like I was cheated life. Like, I got so close to...
I think that's natural.
Fulfilling like all of the desires of even just like a family and a home. And I took it personally from the person and from God. Like, I was like, God literally got me so close, and then he just stripped it right away from me, and I was like, oh.
Do you feel like it was a waste of time? Or
no.
Did you feel like it was a waste of time? Okay. All right.
Yes. Do I feel like now it was a waste of time? No way.
Because you probably grew so much.
I did. I grew a lot, and it made me. It actually, that relationship, it blessed people at the time, and it's blessing people even now. Like, and in not so many words, I think I would do it again if I saw now the blessing that I've gotten from it. Like, in that moment when I was really suffering after it, I would not have been like, I'll do this again. But now I'm just like, I'll take that hit because the blessing was so rich. But yeah, the Lord provides straight after that, which was great. But yeah, your identity takes a hit, and you need to redefine yourself again and figure out what the Lord wants for you. So yeah, I think from that moment, I became, again, a new person.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And you probably have seen that.
So I knew you before all of that. And then when you left church, we sort of like, I didn't really, because I wasn't close to you even when we had to out, because you were older than me. So I didn't know you for however long. How long was the Maryland stint?
Stint was like 7 years.
Yeah, so I didn't really like know you for 7 years.
Yeah.
But I would just hear like what happened with Simon, all this stuff.
Yeah.
Word goes around.
Yeah, word does go around. But that's okay.
Yeah, but I remember something that was so, I guess, precious is that like it was pretty fresh still. You still came here.
I did.
I was like, oh, this is so cool. I haven't seen this guy in like, I mean, we see each other every now and again, but I haven't like.
Yeah, I did come to see you.
Seen this guy in a while, and he came back to our house. This is what I mean when you have like a church family, and sometimes you have to leave. I mean, they're always going to be around. Like,
correct.
Too many people. I can go to any of them. Like, I genuinely had a conversation with Ray and Nicole.
Yeah.
At like a wedding I went to recently. Bro, I'm just like,
I love them.
I love these guys. Hopefully I'll get them on the podcast soon. That'll be very fun.
They would be so fun on the podcast.
Yeah. But I just thought that was so cool. Like,
yeah. I think, in that moment, after that, I instantly just wanted family. And so I went mad talking to everyone, like as in probably not a good idea that I some of them I outletted, but like your mum was one of them. You guys, like I sat in your living room and you like laid like all these puppies on in my hands and like and it felt like home. And every weekend or every week there would be people that would be encouraging me, and I realized then how much the Lord provides because these are all my spiritual family, and I loved it, man. I felt so comfortable during that time. And do you know when you look back and you're like, I regret who I was at some points in life? Like, you're just like, if I was watching myself now 2-3 years ago, I'd be like, why did you say this stuff? Like, why were you so open? Or like, even just like, why did you act like that? Or why did you choose this person to be friends with?
Yes.
That always happens. And I wonder now if I'm going to look back and be like, why did I do this? No, but
this podcast.
It's definitely beneficial.
I was literally having that thought this morning because I was thinking about last year. There was a certain time period, and I was like, why was I like that? Just like, just grow up.
Yeah, legit.
But it helps us grow. So
it does, and we looking back, like we can say wise, but it defines who we are now and who we're pleased with.
Yeah.
And yeah, so went through that trauma, and I would say the Lord from that point onwards has made me the happiest person I've ever been in my life.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I met some really cool people. I've developed really rich manly friendships. And I've seen my friends grow. Like, so at that point, my church at Maryland's came to an end because of circumstances that were out of our control. There was a bit of a breakdown in leadership, and so we had to move into different ministries.
Yeah.
And some of us stuck around, and I love that church and I always will. But I felt like God was putting on my heart to move away. And so all of my friends, we all schismed, and we're all at different churches.
So the same thing that happened with me and Tungabi happened
again.
Simon with Maryland's.
Again, yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? If you are of the faith, you would know how much your church means to you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
That construct is like your home. So it's like your home has an earthquake.
Yeah.
If you're not of the faith, I would describe it as a situation where everyone you're most familiar with is kind of distributed overseas, and you have to separate from them.
It's sort of like leaving school. You all separate. Like, you have your best friendships in school. No, I didn't, but you have your best friendships.
Yeah, you have your bubble.
And then you all separate to go to uni, and it's just like...
And then you really have to own those friendships or they just disappear. Yeah. And so my friends, I have, I would say, a lot of really rich friendships. Sometimes I pray and I'm like, Lord, the list is so long, and the list of prayers are so deep, because I have such rich friendships with every single person.
That's cool.
And every single person has taught me something different. I think flash forwarding to now, I would say I'm the strongest in terms of, I believe my belief is really strong in the Lord. I'm so willing and waiting for what God wants me to do next. I'm being corrected every day. I'm a sinner. Like, I'm living a life that's constantly in repentance. I love my friends because they keep me accountable.
Yeah. It's the best kind of friend to have.
Best friends. Honestly, I tell them everything.
Yeah.
my sins, even in the moment that I sin, I will probably call my friends and say,
That's cool.
I'm done. Like this has happened and I'm done.
Yeah.
Like I need prayer.
Yeah.
Or I need you like now.
That's mad.
Yeah. And they've all matured. Like I've been so encouraged and blessed by their maturity. Some of my friends are married with kids. Some of them are still single. Some of them are in the process of almost getting married. So I've got people at different life stages, and I don't feel insecure about it. I feel so happy and so strong about it. Like I raise my friends' kids like they're my own. And for those that are in the process, I pray for them, and I'll honor that. And for those that are single, I'll battle the singleness with them because that's where I'm at in life, you know? So yeah, I am in ministry. I've moved to Graceway Church officially. I don't know what home is going to be in 10 years' time, but what I can say is I'm growing. I know the Lord is teaching me a lot. I've never been baptized.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Brother, get on that.
Huge. Because I'm not going to get into the details, but Presbyterian faith, our church wasn't properly Presbyterian, our Tingabi one, but my Maryland's one was. And so I was baptized as a kid in the Orthodox Church or the Catholic Church. And they count that as the same baptism. But like, I think now I'm like at a point where it's like, I'm ready. Like I need to do it. Like it's been a while. So
look, we'll talk off camera, but we can talk on camera, but we'll talk off camera.
On the radar. It's definitely on the radar.
Okay.
So I'm very excited for that because I feel like I should publicly declare that the Lord has saved me. And
I'm very strong on baptism. I was saved at baptism, so it's sort of like resonates with me. I've done a lot of research on it as well, so
I'm so excited to talk to you about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I'm really just honestly, I'm grateful. Like, and you've seen, like, I've rediscovered myself. I think my biggest insecurity, even after all of those traumas, you can see the repeated insecurity is feeling like, one, I'm always left behind. Two, that I've always had to step into a position of something that I'm not. And three, like feeling like I'm never truly understanding who I am. God has told me who I am.
Yeah.
I know who God's made me to be and who I'm being called to be in that moment. And my ministry and what I should be doing. And like I feel home. Like I know that I'm at peace with where I am. So like my masculine journey, like my masculinity journey has been probably the most challenged. And I went through so many periods of my life where I would question it because people would question me.
Yeah.
And so when people are questioning you, you question yourself and then you start to have an identity crisis. I know who I am now.
Yeah.
Like I know what God wants me to be.
What do you think for the masculinity thing? What do you think sort of helped you
enable it? Enable masculinity?
Yeah.
The most basic thing is a guy needs to be in the wild, in my opinion, even when you're a bit of a diva. I'm obviously, I don't know if you're going to have Bobby on the podcast, but Bobby is
the next guest, I think.
Great. Guys are going to love Bobby. Yeah. So Bobby's one of my close friends. And our friendship grew in the last 2 years. And I would say when God takes away, God also gives. So when I lost my best friend at the time, being my partner, he provided Bobby, and Bobby's been a really good person to slot right into that position.
Sounds like he's your partner.
He is my partner in crime. But also all of my other friends are like, we're all very cooperative. And he taught me a little bit about just that adolescent like desire to be masculine and to journey with God and to be wild.
Yeah. Wild at heart.
Correct. Great book. Subtle plug there. And yeah, me and John do a lot of hiking and we've added a few boys to that remit as well. Yeah. And we go into the wild, we camp, we eat meat, and we cut ourselves and bruise ourselves and injure ourselves and freeze to death. And yeah, I think we've conquered a few different mountains, and
that's cool.
Like
stuff I would love to do.
Honestly, I highly recommend. And I never thought in a million years I'd do that. Never thought in a million years I'd go camping. That's not me. But he's teaching me, and I think we're all teaching each other, and we're all experiencing new things, and I can definitely feel my body feels it. He is way younger than me, and so I need to remember that sometimes.
That's really cool. I wanted to Are you reckon you're done with your testimony? Because I have some questions.
I am done with my testimony, but I do need to pee. Can I take a break?
Yeah, we can
take a rough break.
Yeah. Off camera. Are you okay talking about your dad a little bit? Or no?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like
hit me with it.
Your situation right now, because I know.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll keep that in anyways.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, no, talk about it definitely.
So I want to. We won't go for too much longer, but I wanted to sort of touch on the situation now, if that's okay.
Hit me with it.
What's going on
so right now Simon Odisho is do you know I actually considered changing my last name
really
when I was a bit younger, because I was like, this isn't who I am, this isn't my identity. But you know what, I had this controversial concept in my head where I was like, why would you do that? You're so stupid. Like, God brought you to this world as an Odisho, you're gonna leave this world as an Odisho.
I mean, girls, you're not gonna leave yourself.
No, it's true.
Sorry about that.
But we'll honor their heritage.
Yeah.
So currently in a position where I'm being prayerful and mindful of the sensitivities around being a son to both a mum and a dad that are both alive and well. My dad lives down the road from me. He hasn't seen me in about 12 years or 13 years. I can't even, to be honest, I don't even know how long. It's a walking paradox for me because he lives down the road. I've seen him from afar and he doesn't recognize me. And it's so weird because I feel so desensitized to it. Like, I'm not crying right now and I'm not emotional about it. I've completely forgiven him for what he's done. And I've forgiven him for his absence too. I think it's so important. Yeah. He has another child. So I have a half sister that exists that I've never met. He has a wife. And I think that the sensitivity is that, one, I really don't want to hurt my mum. My mum is my world as well. Yeah. And I love her and I want to honor her. But I know God would want me to reconcile with my dad. And he's been putting it on my heart for years. It's taking me so long to do it. And I think that there's going to be a point very soon that I will be knocking on his door and talking to him. I don't know what his character's like now. I would say he's very similar to where he was. But I have to tell him that I love him. Yeah. And I have to tell him that I've forgiven him. And I have to tell him that he has the opportunity to get to know me if he wants. And I really want to reconcile.
Wow, that's
it's huge.
That's huge, yeah. That's wow.
But yeah, I do want to caveat, I love my mom. Yeah. Like, I think one thing that is going to hurt my mom is that she's going to think that, like, I don't love her like as much as I do. Her? Yeah, because I feel like for her, it's going to be like, for her, she's protective. Your dog just had babies. And like, she's so protective of her little kids. Yeah. And like, we can't touch them. Yeah. Even the dad can't touch them. My mum will kill for me and my sister. So her thought is, this person's left me. Like, and yeah, like as in.
Yeah, sorry, do you want to change the battery for this one? Because it's.
Is it dead?
It's going to die soon. Sorry.
Nice. You're doing a great job, Anthony.
Anthony, again, he has to do the camera stuff. Every episode we have to say. Yeah, you have to take it off because it's at the bottom.
Anyway, I can keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's going to hurt my mum heaps. And I need to try and figure out a way to get to her so that she understands that this isn't personal for her. Yeah. Like, and I'm not trying to railroad our relationship. Like, I really just want to reconcile.
Yeah. That's an interesting dynamic. I'll try and encourage you a little bit. We did have this discussion on Tuesday, but last year, it was an incredible year. Not because of the church, like me finding a new church or me finding myself, whatever it was. It wasn't any of that. It was seeing my dad's relationship with his children, his wife,
flourish.
Yeah, it felt like a miracle, and it was genuinely just power of prayer. That's literally like, because I didn't do anything but pray. Like there was no active thing that I did to get close to my dad. There should have been, but there was nothing. I just genuinely, like, with a broken heart, a genuine heart, just prayed constantly.
The dog's coming in.
You want to come say hi, dogs? Come. So yeah, I just want to encourage you that even if it might seem impossible, you can't see the dogs, can you?
I think they're too small. Hey,
you can see their heads. Yeah, if there is any point you feel discouraged, just know that it is possible, especially with a God like ours. It's possible. It's
100%, and I'm not going to discredit God. I think God's desire.
Yeah.
Can you imagine I think God would be just smiling from heaven if he saw people reconcile more often.
For sure.
I've held a lot of hate in my heart for so many people, and I think it's a natural reaction, especially when you feel like you're fending for yourself. Like when people that you love hurt you, how dare you hurt me after all the hurt that I've been through?
Yeah.
And you hate, like it fully just festers in you. And that's just the devil's hold. God would be that's so God's character to want.
Often when someone does something against me that I would hate, I often think of, like, the way I forgive. I often think about how much worse I've done to God and Christ, how much he's forgiven me in return.
Straight out.
It's like, bro, this guy, he lied to me. Wow.
Straight out, man. Yeah, definitely.
Is there any other topics that you would want to talk on?
Not necessarily, unless you want to probe me on anything else. I think
I will probe you on something else.
I love getting probed on other things.
But for now, so if you don't know, it's a Polaroid camera. I'm gonna get every guest to
take a photo.
You can take a selfie. I would say a selfie because that's what they've done. If you want to take a different photo, but you have to be in it. So I don't know how's he going to do that.
Do we get a mic? We
can take a mirror selfie if you want, actually, as well.
No, because then the flash is going to ruin that.
You can turn off the flash. You can turn it on.
All right, let's do that.
All right, up to you. I'm going to give it to you. And then because it takes some time to register.
Develop?
Then we'll continue talking. So it's just this big red button. Do you want flash on or off?
I'm going to say off. Are we taking a mirror selfie?
Up to you. Completely up to you.
Nah, I'm going to take a normal selfie.
Okay.
Am I getting out of my chair?
We can just, whatever you want. I'm your little puppet.
Where's the bar?
The red button. Do you want flash on or off? Oh, you're coming to me.
Flash. I'm going to go right next to you.
Right. This is cute. They can see us.
It's on the opposite side. Okay, ready?
Yes.
How am I going to do this?
Do you want to sit? Do you want me to come to you?
Come to this side. I'm going to sit. You go there.
All right.
Definitely want to hide.
I'm scared it's gonna be blurry. All right, we gotta keep it in the dark, so we usually chuck it in the cupboard.
I'm scared. It's like full old Polaroid. Mine's different to this.
Yeah. Right. I searched this one of them.
Can we take another one if it doesn't work?
Look, the problem is the film is very expensive.
Really?
Yeah,
the old Polaroid ones.
So I've been just telling, like, that's why it's pretty blurry. I was just saying, like, one and done.
All right. I'll take out half my face, whatever.
But if it's very, like, tragic, then, then we can.
That's the story of Simon. Tragic. No, I'm kidding.
Before we end, I wanted to maybe just get your sort of one piece of advice for anyone that's listening. So if you could, it doesn't have to be one, but anything that you would sort of encourage people with, or let people know that, I don't know, advice, anything.
Yeah, okay. One piece of advice or encouragement. I have so much to say all the time. You left me speechless.
You can say anything, everything and anything.
All right. So my one piece, I'll give a few pieces of advice. First piece of advice is, if you're ever feeling alone and isolated, the first thing I would implore you to do is to pray that the Lord provides you with a home. And I prayed that my whole life. I still pray that. We will always not feel content. I think that's something that we'll always feel, and we're always going to suffer. So if those two ingredients are always going to be there, the only thing you can really rely on is the Lord, because he's consistent. And if you physically need that hug, I would say, even just metaphorically, you need to be in a home. And so my biggest thing is to pray that the Lord provides you with a home, whether that be a church, whether it be a community of men, whether that be a community, make sure it's an appropriate home. Whether that be a family, that's hugely helped me. In my whole life, I've always felt like there was people that I could rely on. And I thank God for that, man. It's such a blessing. I'm so glad that I've never felt genuinely alone for a long period of time. I have felt isolated, and I think everyone does, but I have had some really, really, really good friends and some really, really, really amazing men in my life. Like, if I think about when I get married one day, if that happens, I will look around that room and all I will see is all the men that have defined who I am today. And that's because of the Lord. Because I prayed for home, and I prayed for men in my life to encourage me. So that's my first piece of advice. My second piece of advice would be to always, with everything within you, look to seek spiritual joy. I think for the most part, everyone around me would probably say I'm quite a joyful person, hyperactive, super dynamic. And I think the only reason I would ever be that person is because I'm happy because the Lord has given me happiness. And I'm at my happiest because I feel like the most happy that I've ever am is when I'm living the most repentant life. And I'm living a life that's honoring him as much as possible.
I think hearing what everything you just been through, then hearing that, it's very effective and powerful. Just like, because you've been through it. Like from your, what you say, three main traumas, but there's from in between everything. It's just like, it seems like to the point where you really found Christ, you've been through the ringer. And even when you did find Christ,
still a few sufferings you had to go
suffering
through.
But just hearing that is cool. And I hope that whoever's listening can take that and be like, yeah, wow, like maybe they're going through something similar that you went through, or whatever it is, and maybe they just needed to hear that encouragement.
Absolutely. God is good.
I always say being a Christian is so weird, because we have to be joyful in sufferings. But it makes so much sense, because it's like,
it does.
Yeah.
And you see the Bible, bro, like all the characters in the Bible. They suffered, man. Paul, Peter, David.
All of them.
All of them. Jesus. Jonathan, like Moses, like everyone has suffered. And Jesus the most. So I don't know about you. I would say you're pretty prepared, but like we're both prepared to suffer.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like, and it's something that I'm privy to, I think will happen again.
And God tells us he won't give us something we can't handle.
Correct.
And not because of our strength, but because of his.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you were saying something before, and I was thinking about, I remember Fadi at Men's Bible Study, he was leading once, and he said there was a pastor. He went to like a leadership conference where there was a bunch of pastors, and this guy was known because he went to like, I don't know, terrorist group, and like he was captured by them and kept preaching the gospel and stuff.
Wow.
And then the pastor said to the other pastors, like, you guys wouldn't be able to do this, would you? And the pastors, out of their humility, were like, yeah, we won't, like, of course not, all this stuff. And then the guy that was at the terrorist group, he's like, well, neither was I. I couldn't have done this, but God equipped me for all the suffering that I went through from it. I couldn't have done it by myself. It's like, that's extremely powerful. And there was something I was thinking about it when you were saying something before. I can't remember what it was, but specifically, but something you had in your life. I think it was just being like there for your mom, for your sister, all that stuff.
Oh yeah, being the character that I needed to be for that moment.
Yeah, I was like you said you were in year 9 during that time or something?
Yeah, like I think pretty much all of my schooling, and then outside of school, uni. Yeah.
Like 14, 15-year-old boy isn't gonna be equipped to be the stronghold in the family, but God equipped you to do that. And I think it's a cool dynamic, because you were having these like identity crisis of trying to, I don't know, be a man or something.
Pretty much, yeah.
And
sentence.
And then God
made it happen.
He's like, yeah, well,
here it is.
And you've dealt with and put up with more manly things than
some of the men.
Yeah, most men. At 15 years old, or I don't know how old you were, but I think that's extremely encouraging. Sorry, I just went on a massive...
No, I'm totally fine with the rant.
The rant,
yeah, thanks. It was encouraging.
Yeah. Yeah. Was there any other advice? Because you said you have heaps who like to listen.
Heaps advice. Go on a hike if you haven't already gone on a hike.
I need to start doing that more.
I love it. It's so good. Getting into nature is so good.
Yeah.
It's like, it's ridiculous how emotional I could get in like the wild. Looking at like different things, like even just seeing the weather change, or seeing how glorious God's creation is, his sunrise, sunsets, like the wind, like the birds, the trees, everything, and even just breathing in that fresh air. It's something different, man. And yeah, I think
I need to start doing that.
No, 100%. I honestly struggle to read the Bible at home. So if I do read the Bible, I tend to go to the sunrise at Cronulla, and I sit at like one of the rocks there, and I read for like an hour or two, and I spend some time walking and just worshiping in my headphones.
That's cool.
I think that's like so good reading in nature.
Yeah, I think I agree. I just don't do it enough.
Yeah,
I just don't do it enough.
That's my advice to you. Get out at least once or twice a month.
Yeah, I really need to.
Especially as a guy, I don't know why. It's just like we
I agree.
Inherently need to be part of the land.
You know what's funny? I was describing Graceway to my boss. There's like, well, Graceway people, and I was like, look, I don't know if they're like, if there's a way to describe them. Like they don't. It's not really like a hobby. They go out for dinners and stuff, but that's everyone. They don't do. And then I was like, how would I describe them? I was like, they just like look at the sun. That's how I describe them. Because that's like
common thread.
I think there was a time period where it was just like everyone was looking at the sunrise, sunset, and I was like, fair enough.
It's such a cliche thing to do.
It's cute, and I understand where they're coming from, and I think that's something Bobby sort of brought into Grace. I wasn't here when Bobby came, but I think that's what he brought to Grace.
Yeah, his What a Life journey has been really good, and I think he'll speak about stuff like that on his podcast.
Next episode.
He'll be really. I don't know how you're going to keep him into an hour and a half or whatever. I don't even know. But yeah, no, he definitely did bring a breath of fresh air. Literally. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a little bit of a teaser for next week. I give the opportunity to the guest to always do the outro.
Do the outro. So what does the outro need to be?
Is it anything you? And then I'll say what I need to if you don't cover something.
The outro.
You don't have to. I just always, because I know that people like to have that like that cringiness, you know.
Thank you so much for joining me on my podcast. My name is Simon, and I know that factually everybody will be cringing right now. I actually love doing accents. It's actually such a cute photo. Well, my head is so small. Oh, you look so cute. I like it. I don't think you guys can see it, but it's a really cute photo.
Actually, sign it first. So we have markers that you can sign it with. You can pick whatever color. Pick pink.
I'm gonna pick pink.
You're gonna pick pink.
Do you know why though? Because that's the only one that's Sharpie.
You're not wrong. Maybe I should.
You need to invest in more Sharpies.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? I'm really good at a Scottish accent.
Go
do you want me to try it?
Do it.
So, do you know that movie, Brave?
Yes.
Yeah. So I watched it a few times and with my nephews and nieces, and every time I see them, I'm like, Merida, you're a bear. You got to mend the tapestry. Where are the boys? Like I'm constantly doing that. But
you want to do the outro in a Scottish accent?
No, I'm not going to do it in a Scottish accent because I'll just stuff it up. No, but I will do it in an American accent. Oh. No, people are going to cringe. Thanks everyone for listening to the podcast. My name is Simon and this is Jonah. It's been really good having this moment with you. It did feel like I was just chatting to you though. So that was really fun.
That's the goal.
And I hope people are inspired.
Yeah.
And I hope that God does something to you in all these podcasts.
Yeah. That's the main goal. Thank you, Simon, for coming on. It was a very big privilege of me and hopefully for the viewers. And thank you for the viewers for watching if you're still here. We are on YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, and Instagram, possibly other things. So check us out there. If you're on Spotify, give us, I think they do 5-star ratings and stuff. Just give us 5-star ratings. Do
5-star ratings and send this to your friends so that everyone knows my personal life.
If YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Press that like button. What else do they do? Notification bell if you want to keep up to date. You probably don't know what Discord is. Do you know what Discord is?
No.
Well, if you have a Discord, then I have a Discord channel you can join. It's for gaming.
Nice.
But you can join anyway. Honestly, actually, I wanted to say, if you guys have something, because it's been 4 podcasts in now, I think, with Simon. If you guys have any advice or criticism that you would like to give, even Simon himself, please give it. It doesn't mean I'll listen to you, but it would be yeah, like I know it's pretty boring in the background so far.
We'll get there though.
We'll get there, yeah. It's a process.
And let me know if you want to ask me any questions for my second rendition if I do one.
Yes. Oh, for sure you're gonna.
But if you give me a bad recommendation, I'm definitely not gonna be able to do another podcast because he's not gonna get me back.
I'm gonna show them the photo. Yep. Oh, that's super blurry. Hello. Autofocus. No, alright, we'll go to this one. There we go. That's cute. And it says, "Love you, Jonah!" Exclamation mark! Exclamation mark! Exclamation mark! I don't know if they could hear me. But yeah, thank you, Simon. Thank you all for listening and watching. Yeah, anything you want to say at the end?
Love you.
See you guys.